There's a striking historical irony at the center of the modern NED plus supplement market. Niacin, dismissed by many consumers today as a boring, old-fashioned B vitamin, is the compound that solved one of the 20th century's most devastating public health crises. NMN, celebrated as a cutting-edge longevity breakthrough, has been tested in perhaps a dozen small human trials, most of them conducted over weeks rather than years. The difference in how these two molecules are perceived has almost nothing to do with science and almost everything to do with marketing investment. Pellagra was a catastrophic disease that swept through the American South and parts of Europe in the early 20th century, killing hundreds of thousands of people. Its symptoms, dermatitis, diarrhea, dementia, and death, were caused by severe niacin deficiency. At the cellular level, Pellagra is a story of ND plus depletion so profound that fundamental biological processes collapse. When niacin was identified as the cure and added to staple foods, the disease was effectively eradicated. This is one of the most successful nutritional interventions in medical history. It also demonstrates, beyond any reasonable doubt, that niacin is central to cellular health, neurological function, and longevity in the most literal sense. NMN's story begins in animal studies published around 2013, where rodents given NMN showed improvements in various aging biomarkers. The scientific interest these studies generated was genuine, and the results were intriguing. What followed, however, was a phenomenon familiar in the supplement industry. The gap between rodent data and human clinical evidence was bridged not by additional rigorous trials, but by marketing. NMN was positioned as a breakthrough anti-aging molecule on the basis of evidence that would not pass muster in pharmaceutical development, animal studies with no long-term human safety data, and no large-scale randomized controlled trials. The framing that NMN represents cutting-edge longevity science, while niacin is merely historical nutrition, is backwards. Niacin has decades of human clinical data, cardiovascular trials, safety studies, dose-response research across thousands of patients. NMN has a handful of short-term pilot studies in healthy adults, most of them funded by companies with financial interests in positive outcomes. This is not to say NMN research is worthless. It's to say that the evidence hierarchy matters, and consumers deserve to understand it. Distinguishing between a mouse study and a human randomized controlled trial is not a trivial distinction. It's foundational to evidence-based decision-making. A compound that has been tested in millions of people over 80 years occupies a fundamentally different category of certainty than one that has been tested in a few hundred people for a few months. Niacin's relative obscurity in the modern supplement conversation reflects marketing budgets, not science.